The morning air was cool, sharp enough to sting Sarah's lungs as she stepped onto her porch. A thin slip of paper, flapping against her front door, caught her attention. She frowned, tugging it free. Bold, black letters screamed across the top. Notice of eviction. Her hands trembled as she scanned the page. The signature at the bottom was unmistakable: Linda Crowley, HOA President. For a long moment, Sarah just stood there, the world narrowing to the cruel ink on that paper. Her home, her sanctuary, the one place she thought was untouchable, suddenly felt like quicksand under her feet. Inside, she dropped the letter on the kitchen counter. This can't be real," she whispered, her voice shaking. Her phone buzzed with a text from her next-door neighbor, Marcy. "Did you get one too?" Sarah typed back quickly. "What? An eviction notice?" There was a pause before the reply came. "No, just you." A hollow chill ran through her. Why only her? She remembered the whispers from block parties, neighbors lowering their voices whenever Linda's name came up. "Don't cross her." "She'll make your life hell." Sarah had dismissed them as exaggerations. But now, staring at the letter, she realized it wasn't a neighborhood myth. It was a warning she had ignored. From her window, Sarah spotted Linda across the street, standing tall in her pressed blazer, clipboard tucked under one arm. Their eyes met. Linda's lips curled into a thin, satisfied smile before she turned and walked away. Sarah's chest tightened. This wasn't just about rules. This was personal. And somewhere deep down, she knew. The fight had only just begun. Sarah couldn't let the eviction notice go unanswered. That night, she sat at her dining table, the paper spread out like a weapon aimed at her chest. Every line of legal jargon screamed intimidation. She knew Linda was powerful, but she also knew power didn't exist without fear propping it up. The next morning, she knocked on Marcy's door. The woman hesitated before opening, eyes darting nervously over Sarah's shoulder as if Linda herself might be lurking nearby. "Marcy, I need to know, has Linda ever done this before?" Sarah asked softly. Marcy's lips pressed into a thin line. "She finds people for everything. My son left his bike in the driveway once, $200. But eviction? That's new." Sarah thanked her, but Marcy's reluctance only sharpened her resolve. She needed someone braver. 2 blocks over, she found Daniel, a quiet man in his 50s who kept his blinds drawn and his yard immaculate. He opened the door halfway, suspicion in his gaze. "I don't want trouble," he muttered before she even spoke. "Daniel, please," Sarah urged, her voice trembling but steady. "It's only me." "She's targeting me, and I need to know why." Something shifted in his expression. He exhaled slowly and stepped aside, motioning her in. Inside, the air smelled of coffee and old books. Daniel sat heavily in a chair, rubbing his temples. "Linda's untouchable because everyone's scared. But she's not clean. She's been violating her own rules for years. Unapproved renovations, money from fines that never made it to the HOA account. I kept records. But if I speak up, she'll destroy me." Sarah's breath caught. Proof. Real proof. Daniel's eyes lifted to hers, haunted. "You didn't hear this from me." When she left his house, Sarah felt a dangerous clarity. The neighborhood wasn't loyal to Linda. They were shackled by fear, and fear could be broken. The HOA meeting was held in the clubhouse, a sterile room with folding chairs and buzzing fluorescent lights. Sarah sat near the front, a folder of documents clenched in her lap. Every heartbeat felt like a countdown. Around her, neighbors whispered, avoiding Linda's gaze as she stood at the podium, her blazer crisp, her smile sharpened to a blade. "Let's begin," Linda announced. "First order of business, violations. As you all know, Sarah Turner has repeatedly failed to comply with community standards. It has become necessary to move toward eviction." Gasps rippled through the room. Sarah rose slowly, her legs trembling but steady enough to carry her forward. She placed the folder on the table and met Linda's eyes. "That's a lie," she said, her voice louder than she expected. "And I can prove it." Linda smirked, tilting her head. "Oh, Sarah." Always the dramatist. "Do you really think anyone here believes you over me?" Sarah opened the folder. One by one, she pulled out photographs. Linda's backyard patio, rebuilt without permits. Receipts for landscaping work billed to the HOA but never approved. Bank statements showing missing funds. Murmurs spread through the room like wildfire. "This isn't about violations," Sarah continued. "It's about control. Linda has fined families for bikes, for plants, for holidays, while breaking every rule herself." A man in the back stood. "She fined me for leaving my trash can out an extra day," he muttered, voice shaking. "But she's the one with construction trucks parked outside her house for months." Another woman chimed in, louder. "She made me cry over garden lights. I paid a fine I couldn't afford." Linda slammed her hand against the podium. "Silence! You people wouldn't even have a neighborhood if it weren't for me." But her voice cracked, thin and desperate. Sarah leaned closer, her voice steady as steel. "You don't protect this community, Linda. You feed on it." The room fell heavy with silence, then a low rumble of agreement. Neighbors who had once kept their heads down now sat taller, their eyes fixed on Linda with something new, defiance. For the first time, Linda looked cornered. The days following the meeting were electric with whispers. What had once been quiet compliance turned into open rebellion. Neighbors gathered in driveways, trading stories that had lived in silence for years. "She doubled my fine for late dues," one man confessed. "But I found out later she never even recorded the payment." "She gave her cousin the landscaping contract," another added bitterly. "Charged us double the market price." And then came the ugliest rumor. Linda's late-night meetings with a board member, whispered about behind drawn curtains. Nobody dared say the word affair aloud, but the implication poisoned every conversation. Inside her house, Linda pulled her blinds shut, the once proud queen retreating into shadows. Her car sat unmoved for days, a thin layer of dust dulling its shine. When she finally appeared, striding across her lawn, her blazer was wrinkled, her hair unkempt, her confidence fraying at the edges. Sarah watched from her window, torn between triumph and unease. Yes, Linda was unraveling, but the price of her cruelty still weighed heavy. That eviction notice could have stripped away her home, her sense of safety, her very identity. The thought left Sarah's hands trembling long after the paper was gone. One evening, Marcy knocked softly on Sarah's door. "You did it," she whispered, eyes wide with relief. "You stood up to her." "We all owe you," Sarah shook her head. "No, we stood up to her." Together still, when Sarah lay in bed that night, the silence pressed against her chest. Vindication didn't erase the fear, nor the scars Linda had left behind. And yet, the neighborhood was stirring, preparing for one final reckoning. The clubhouse was packed, every chair filled, neighbors standing shoulder to shoulder. A hush fell as slips of paper were passed around, the vote that would decide Linda's fate. At the front, Linda's hands shook as she clutched the podium. Her once commanding voice faltered. "I've given this community everything," she insisted, eyes darting, desperate. "Without me, you'll fall apart." No one answered. Pens scratched. Ballots dropped into the box with finality. Sarah sat still, heart hammering as the count began. Each number tallied chipped away at the silence until the result was undeniable. Linda, out. A collective sigh swept through the room, relief breaking like a storm. Some clapped, others simply wept. Sarah didn't smile. She only breathed, slow and heavy. Justice was done, but the memory of fear lingered, scars etched deeper than any fine or notice. Outside, the night air felt freer but colder too.